I would have preferred to have filmed this review as soon as I got home from watching this movie last night, but it was so late and I had other stuff to do that I just didn't. So I don't feel like I have quite the same level of energy as I did right after I walked out of the theater from watching this movie, which I only very recently heard about and just last moment decided to buy a ticket to go check it out. And that's what I did last night. It's for a movie called CopShop, and it has Frank Grillo, Gerard Butler, and oh my gosh, the girl's name. Hold on, I'm gonna look it up because I forgot her name. Dang it. And I had looked it up before I started this, but it's been a while since I looked it up. So let me check. Okay, her name is Alexis Louder. Now, this is the first movie that I paid attention to her in. I don't remember ever seeing her before, but then I found out that yes, she has been in something that I've watched. She was in The Tomorrow War, though I do not remember the character she played. So she didn't really stand out to me in that movie. But obviously she did in this one because she's one of the main roles. So the premise of the story, which I had a little bit messed up in my mind. At first I thought the premise, well, the characters were flipped. And I'll get into that in a second. So the premise of the story is that Frank Grillo is this con man guy who has gotten into some deep trouble and a hitman is after him. So he finds a way to get himself put in jail thinking that that's going to protect him, but it's not a good enough protection because the hitman tracks him down. And that's a pretty simple premise, but there is a lot more going on behind the scenes or under the table or, you know, with it. There's just a lot of different interconnecting sort of parts in this movie that makes it more complex than just this hitman's after this guy and that's it. There's other things involved. And the location of this police precinct where he's been put in jail is like this remote area in Nevada, I think. And it's run by there are these cops there, and the girl that Alexis plays, oh, I can't remember her character name. Whatever, I'm just gonna call her Alexis. The character that she plays is one of the cops at the precinct, and so when the way the movie starts out is kind of interesting because from the very beginning, like when it first starts off, and then also some of the final shots, it's very reminiscent of this 70s action police cop drama vibe sort of thing. You know it when you hear it. I can't really, it has something to do with the music. And I think it's also the way some of the shots were filmed. It starts off and Frank Grillo's character is fleeing in a car. There's like this chase and just the way they did the credits and the sound of the credits and everything, just very, very 70s. I mean, that is absolutely the vibe I got. So when I was looking up more information about this movie, I was seeing people bring that up. So it wasn't just my imagination. There's definitely that style going into this film. Though throughout the movie, it's not necessarily, it doesn't really have that feel, but there's like these little bits and pieces in there that kind of bring that back. Now, the fellow that directed this movie, I can't remember his name. I'm not going to look it up, but it's the same guy that worked with Frank Grillo in Boss Level. And I believe he also directed The Gray, I think that's the name of it, with Liam Neeson and Frank Grillo. And it's about these guys that are, I don't know, like out somewhere in the cold, wintry, wherever. I don't know if it's Alaska or whatever. And there's like these wolves that are after them. I never saw that film, but I heard a lot of people liked it. Anyway, so these two, they work together quite a bit. I believe, so Frank has recently, or within the past couple of years, started his own production company or something. And I think that this director is involved in that with him. So Frank is one of the executive producers, and so is Gerard. So the acting in here was really good. Nothing felt corny or cheesy or awful. And the dialogue, I really liked the dialogue in here. There was just something about it, and the way that the scenes were put together and the cinematography / editing, stuff like that, I thought it was done quite well. Now, I had read an article where Frank was expressing discontent with the theatrical edit of this because apparently the director and Frank had their own sort of version of the movie that they wanted to present to the audience, but I guess the studio decided a little bit differently. and Frank felt like that was kind of a sort of a disservice to the character that he played, because his character is quite nuanced. I mean, actually, most of the characters in here are, and that's what makes it so interesting. There's no one that's really purely good except for the character played by Alexis. She's pretty much, no, there are others that are good, but like she's like the main sort of focal point of the story. But some of the other characters, including Gerard's character, Frank's character, and some of the other side characters that show up, they're quite nuanced, which makes them interesting. And they're just not that, cookie cutter bad guy / good guy, or, cardboard cutout type of thing. And so that's what was very compelling about this movie. You never really quite knew exactly what to think 100% about Gerard's character, who is the hitman, and Frank's character, who is the con man. Now, what I was referencing earlier when I started talking about this was I initially thought that Gerard was going to be the con man and Frank was going to be the hitman, because I guess I just misread the summary, something about it, and I never saw the trailer for it. And I just had in my mind Frank was going to be the hitman, because Frank can play these really freaking scary characters. And so I was like, well, that's Frank. I'm sure he's that. No, it was the other way around. But anyway, either way, they both are pretty scary, because they both have these things about them. It's like, I don't know about that. I don't know that I can trust. I mean, you really can't feel like you can trust either one of them. And that's the position that the character played by Alexis is in. She gets in this situation where she has to rely on them for survival. It ends up about an hour into the film. It ends up where things are really, really starting to come to a very, very dramatic sort of thing is happening. There's a psychopath that ends up coming into the police precinct after Frank Grillo's character, and all hell starts to break loose. And I mean, this guy, I don't know the actor's name. His face looks familiar. Maybe I've seen him. He's not in any of these pictures. Unfortunately, there are not a lot of images from the film that I could pull up to use in this review. But he comes in and he is just tearing into everything and everybody, and he's a freaking maniac. And there's this funny bit of dialogue that ties into that. At some point it comes around to that, because there's a certain point in the movie where Alexis's character and Gerard's character, she has a lot of antipathy for him because he's a hitman and she's a police officer, and she believes in upholding the law, and she doesn't get behind this illegal stuff that's going on all around her. And so she has this conversation with Gerard, and she's the subject of psychopaths come up. And later, when this crazy guy comes in the police precinct, it kind of ties back a little bit to that discussion, which was funny. It's one of the things I was referring to when I said that I like the dialogue in here. It was really well done, and the interaction between the characters was interesting. I like how the movie starts off. You don't know anything that's going on, which is good. They don't lay it all out there in the beginning, and it's just as the movie progresses, little by little, the layers of the onion of the story are peeled back, and there's kind of a bit of sort of mystery and investigative stuff going on, and little camera tricks that happen, like little scenes that happen, not camera tricks, but let's say little scenes that happen earlier, and you think, okay, that's just this little funny little cute scene between these two cops. But later there's something that happens that, if it hadn't been for that scene in the beginning, well, it wouldn't have made sense as far as something that she found later, but it does because this scene showed it. See, that's the thing about good writing and good quality storytelling, or like movie making. And I'm reminded of things like Terminator 2. They show these little stuff happens and you see a quick glimpse of something, and then later that something turns up being one of the very things that is crucial at the very end of the movie. And so that kind of reminded me of that when I was watching this movie. And I felt like it was a fun ride. It was quite well done. I do have at least one gripe about it. And I don't want to say too much because I don't want to spoil it. This movie is brand new, but there's something that happens at some point in this movie and you're like, okay, well, that's the way it is. And then something happens later and I was thinking to myself, how? That makes no sense at all because this other thing happened. There's no way this thing could be happening. I'm trying to be really vague, you guys. I'm sorry. Because if I tell you specifics, then when it happens in the movie, you will know what's probably going to happen later. So I'm just not going. I'm going to avoid that because if you guys are able to check it out sometime soon, this weekend at the theaters or whatever, I feel like it's best appreciated to go in not really knowing too much in depth about things that happen in the movie. Obviously, you're getting some clues with the pictures from the film here, but these might be coming from the trailer. I don't know. Like I said, I never saw the trailer, but unfortunately, this movie is not getting a whole lot of marketing because, like I said, I only just found out. Oh gosh, scared the crap out of me. That tone. I only just found out about this. Now, they were filming this movie last October. So they filmed this during the whole pandemic and everything. I think at one point they had to close down production for like 2 or 3 days because some people caught COVID. And I was also reading that Gerard Butler hurt 3 people in one day during the filming. I didn't read in depth about that. I was like, oh, wow, okay. Well, he was a busy man that day. Obviously, completely accidental. But I don't know why this isn't getting more attention. I feel like a movie like Boss Level deserved a big screen appearance because that was a really fun film. Great writing in that also. Great acting, great directing. I'm really digging this director's style so far. Now, these are only like Boss Level and CopShop. As far as I know, these are the only movies of this director's that I've seen. I think his name is Joe something, but I might be wrong. And I'm liking what I'm seeing. Now I'm curious to check out his other movies. I know, like I said, he did The Grey. I never watched that because I read the movie spoiler, so I know what happens. And I go, I don't know if I want to see it. But I don't know. Maybe I should check it out just to appreciate the filmmaking that went into it. Now, The Grey is several years old. Excuse me. I don't know what other films this guy has done besides these 2 movies that I've already seen, but I think he's very, very good filmmaker. I'm quite impressed, and he's going to be one of those names. I know I've forgotten his name, but I recognize his face, and I think after I stop filming, I'm going to go brand his name in my brain so I remember. I don't always hold on to the names of directors. It's like I either like the movie or don't, but sometimes when you see enough films by certain directors that are really good, their names do start to seep into your brain, like Steven Spielberg or George Lucas or James Wan or James Cameron, people like that. So this guy's going to be one of those guys. Quentin Tarantino and Guy Ritchie. This guy's going to be one of those guys that's going to be in my head. It's like when I see it's a movie by him, oh, I'm interested because I know so far that he's really got it when it comes down to telling a good story on screen. So if this movie is available in your area and you're interested, go check it out. It's worth a big screen experience. It's not one of those huge blockbustery type of action films like, Avengers movies or anything, but still, I personally do feel like big screen experience is the most fun. Some movies can be appreciated just fine on the small screen, but I don't think this is available yet anywhere on streaming. It's only in the theaters right now. Will probably be available on other platforms at some point, but for right now, if you want to check it out, it's on the big screen, hopefully in your area. I don't know how much of a wide release it has. Like I said, it came to our local theater, and our theater is one of the big chains, so I expect it's probably nationwide. It just might not be. And it was actually in one of the big theaters too, like one of the big rooms in the theater where I went to. So that kind of surprised me because I didn't feel, and there weren't a huge amount of people in there, but it surprised me that the movie was put in that particular room. Now they may shift it to a smaller room at some point because still a lot of people are coming to see, you know, Shang-Chi and Free Guy, stuff like that. But I hope this movie gets some attention. I feel like it's well worth it to check it out if you like this type of thing. Obviously, not everybody likes this type of thing. It's got solid critical reviews. Not that that matters, but right before I went to see it, I checked out the audience reviews, and there weren't a ton in, okay? But at the time that I saw it, it was sitting at about 50%, and I was a little concerned. I was like, oh no, that means it's probably not going to be all that great. But then I watched it, and I came away from it thinking, no, it's actually pretty darn good. Despite this one big issue that I have that happens in the movie, it was an enjoyable experience, and it's something I would watch again. Hopefully, if you guys are able to check it out, you'll enjoy it as well. You know, this is my opinion about how I feel about it. Everybody thinks differently when it comes to certain stuff like this. But if you get a chance to check it out, let me know what you think. And I'm curious to find out if some of you guys are able to zero in on one of the issues that I had, something that happens in here that just doesn't. Maybe some of that is. Maybe that ties in with what Frank Grillo said about some parts being like it wasn't, the theatrical version wasn't the same version as what the director had put forth. And maybe some stuff was cut out that would make this certain thing a little bit more clear. I don't know if that's the case or not, because the specific thing that I'm referring to isn't directly related to Frank's character, but somebody else's. But maybe indirectly. I don't know. I wouldn't know unless I saw whatever cut he's talking about. But anyway, this is a fun ride. I recommend it if you like this type of thing. I don't think you'll be disappointed in it, but you never know. Let me know what you think about it if you get a chance to check it out. And I guess that's it. See you later. Bye.